cause.
Welcome everybody. I'm Foster.
I'm Williams,
I'm the businessman.
and I'm the councilman. This is the Foster and Williams Show. If it's in the news, we talk about it. If it's in the neighborhood, we talk about it. If it matters to you, oh yeah, we talk about it.
And we are the friends of the people.
The Foster and Williams Show. Welcome again to the Foster and Williams Show. I'm so glad that we're here today. Thanks for all of our listeners. It's good to be on 88.1 WHPR Highland Park Radio. We had a thunderstorm last night, man. It almost blew away, so I didn't even get to shave. I'm looking like Grizzly Adams today. But we have a very important show. I got a special guest that's going to be coming up in a little while. But we want to start the show talking about the Canadian water shutoff notices. People from Canada actually brought 11 vehicles worth of water to Detroit because of the water shutoff.
Man, I thought that was pretty awesome, man. You can't beat that. I wish it would be more activity over here, but we're glad our neighbors over there brought some water over here before the people.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, Henry. I mean, it was so amazing that in May they only shut off 500 people's water, right?
Uh-huh.
But in June they shut off 7,200 people's water. That's a huge increase over a month. And they say, well, it's $90 million and people need to pay their water bills and things like that. But water, it's got to be a human right. If you don't have water, you die. They say the body is 75% water, and once you take that away, we're just dust. And so for the government to say, in the country as rich as we is, in a state that's as rich as we is, where the state has a surplus now, remind you, they take our tax dollars and they got a surplus. They don't have water for the people. So I want to thank all the people who have been protesting. Maureen Taylor, if you're listening, I just give you the utmost kudos because I know you've been fighting the fight. You know, Brandon Jessup, the whole water brigade. Now we got people from Flint fighting for water in Detroit. And so, like I said, you can call in at 313-868-3688. Again, that's 313-868-388. And now, the second thing we want to talk about, and I got a lot of feedback on my Facebook and everywhere else about the New York Times writing an article saying marijuana should be legalized. You listen to that, Cisco? That marijuana should be legalized on the national level. And one of the reasons they cited was that in 2012, 630,000 people were incarcerated over marijuana. Now, watch this. But only 256,000 people were arrested or put in the criminal justice system over cocaine. So you're telling me that weed is a bigger problem than cocaine or crack in the system. And one of the other things they cited was the fact that it was disproportionately to African American youths because they were using it to create a drug culture. So they said they should legalize. Now, what's your thoughts on marijuana being legalized?
Well, my thoughts on marijuana being legalized, it's kind of a weird little situation. Well, while it could be legalized, in my opinion, to solve one issue as far as taxing purposes and stuff like that. But I don't believe that it's really going to help the lay person or the normal person around the way to actually, particularly, their pockets or anything else like that, or just keeping them out of jail. Just kind of helps higher power, really, in my opinion. The other thing is legalizing it. You probably could legalize it and stop incarceration, but again, I don't think, especially in Michigan, that they will stop and actually legalize it because it'll mess up some other numbers as far as business is concerned, for my view.
Well, it might mess up the prison numbers, but they've been trying to find a way to tax marijuana. And you see states like Washington legalizing it for recreation, Colorado legalizing it for recreation, because at the end of the day, that's a new stream of revenue. And so one of the things that has to be looked at is what's really going to be the impact on society. Yeah, you can legalize it, But what's to stop an employer to say, listen, I don't want to hire somebody who's smoking weed all day. But the people who are for it say, listen, weed is not even worse than alcohol. Even President Barack Obama said, you know, it's not a good thing to do, but it's no worse than alcohol. But is that a reason to legalize it?
You know, again, if for me, and if I was in charge, legalizing only to stop the incarceration. But you know, it's, you know, for the most part, I don't believe it is, you know, a reason to legalize it. You know, so I don't.
Well, the other thing that we found out when we were just talking to the people on the street, they said that if you legalize it, then you will be able to regulate it, and you'll be able to regulate the quality. I mean, many people know that, you know, we've had people in the community who thought they were smoking weed, and they were end up smoking something that came out of somebody's kitchen sink, you know. So I don't know. I remember when I was a little kid, some guy tried to sell some oregano flakes to somebody, and so that's what he thought was important. But I know a lot of people who say that, you know, if you allow cigarettes, how can you stop weed? And the New York Times article said it was similar to prohibition. I mean, you got to have, I mean, you let people gamble.
True.
You let people smoke. Well, they got to smoke outside now in Michigan because they passed a law that said, you know, no secondhand smoke, right? But then you say, well, when it comes to weed, no, you know, you're going to regulate that. And I think a lot of that had to do at the time because people are not growing tobacco plantations, but you know, you can go in somebody's backyard and you might think that it's a regular weed that you need to pull, and it's some real weed, it's some Mary Jane that's back there and nobody knows, and they're able to smoke it and roll it on their own. And so I think it was, now that the government has found a way to make sure they're making money off of it, then I think that there's going to be a bigger push, because you've had people since the 70s saying that, well, marijuana should be legal, look at the processes, and then look at the processes for medical people. Some people say, you know, we always had a joke from Fridays, you know, that's for my glaucoma or whatever. But the truth be told, it does have medicinal purposes for some people, especially cancer patients and other things like that, that say that they should use it. But now they're saying take it to a different level. Let it be used for recreational use, and let the states regulate it. I mean, if the states are making money of it, what's the problem? Because clearly people are smoking it anyway.
Very true. Very true. With my view again, I'm sticking to, you know, the taxes. I mean, it's going to be some way for the government to make money off of it, but it is still. And it can regulate it, and it's still just going to help one side. It's not going to just help both sides, in my opinion. You know, the fact of the matter is, well, you know.
Well, the bottom line is, Henry, is that if we continue to let the government, I guess, dictate what's acceptable and what's not acceptable, that's the line. I mean, in the New York Times article, they said, well, it's only people that's over 21 that should be able to smoke marijuana, the same way that it is with alcohol. And so when you have those limits, does that make it better? But anytime you have access, there's always room for it to be done illegally. I guess the question is, at what point is the government too big? Is it regulating what's happening in your house, in your backyard? What's the driving laws to deal with that? Are you going to have DUIs, or is it going to be the same thing since it's legal now? Is it going to be a driver responsibility for people who are caught with weed?
Maybe, maybe not. If they can make money off it, of course, they'll bring the responsibilities fees back, in my opinion. It just will, to me, it'll never be solved, because it's just going to help with funds, and then it's going to create another problem somewhere. It's just never going to be solved. But you can try to regulate it, but people like their different strands and things like that, their different types. So someone can show up to work and, you know, and basically be too high after smoking the weed, and that can, you know, offend the employers.
But what if somebody says, I work better smoking weed, now I'm calm, my job has been stressing me out, but now that I'm smoking these Gans, I'm all right? I mean, think about that. I mean, that can be. See, and I guess I'm the wrong person to be having this topic. I never smoked. They told me when I was young you could only afford one habit, so I chose to eat. So that's what I ended up with. But I know that there's people out there listening right now. They can call in at 313-868-3688. Again, that's 313-868-3688. Also, y'all can go to our Facebook page, like the Foster and Williams Radio Show, and let us know what you're thinking. We'll read your comments next week from what happened on today's show. We're going to move on to our next topic because we have a jam-packed show. But if you want to call in because you think weed should be legal or you think it shouldn't be legal, please call in. The next thing we want to talk about is Sharmise Taylor. I don't know if people remember Sharmise Taylor, but that's the lady who left her kids in the car to go to a job interview.
Ooh, that's a tough subject there, I am happy with the results. You know, Kermit. You know, it is an unfortunate situation where she left two kids in the car to go do what she had to do. But again, what kind of system did she have before she did it? I thought about a few things. Would I have done it to go get a job interview to better my chances for myself and the situation for my kids? It's a tough situation, and above all, I'm actually happy with the results. Now she did, she got tapped on her hand a little bit, so that's only right in my opinion to do something, but I'm glad that the results.
Well, she left her kids in a 100-degree car. For those of you who are just listening, to go to a job interview. One of the kids I think was 6 months old, and the other kid was 2 months old. And so the judge said, "Okay, we're not gonna put you in jail. We're gonna make you go to parenting class," which I wish I could make a lot of people go to parenting class. But they also set up a trust fund that the money that was raised, because people were outraged. A young lady by the name of Bishop raised $115,000 for this lady's cause, because she said she could have been in the strip club, she could have been in the nightclub and left her kids in the car. But let's be honest, growing up in a black family, your mama left you in the car for a couple minutes.
Or
come on now. I mean,
somewhere.
I know this is not politically correct. Don't call in the WHBR blaming. This is not approved by the station. This is only approved by the Foster and Williams show. So if you got a problem, take it up with me. But if your mother had to go to the grocery store and pick up some milk real quick, she left you in the car. I guess the condition was this lady had to be on some kind of substance, allegedly, or had no other options. And so I guess it speaks to the bigger problem that you're going to a job interview and you really didn't have a safety net of somebody you could trust to keep your kids for 45, 55 minutes. And so what do single mothers do when they're faced in two no-win situations? Clearly she's trying to do something better because she's going to a job interview. She's not sitting on the couch, smoking this illegal marijuana right now, talking about, well, I should get up and do something right now. You know the Everest commercial, the man make you feel like you ain't doing nothing with your life. But what I'm saying is there's got to be a greater system and some programs, and I think that the government and everybody else spend so much time hampering people. It's kind of crazy the way the system is set up. You can get welfare, food stamps, whatever you need if you don't work. But once you start making a certain point of money, we'll give you, X amount of dollars until you start making money. Once you get a job and you got a paycheck, but it's still not enough to pay for daycare, we won't give you any assistance.
Or a ride to the interview.
Oh, we won't give you a ride to the interview. Forget a ride to the interview, a gas car or something. You got to understand. We're not even going to get you a moped, a bike, a tricycle, whatever to get to the interview. But this lady actually took her kids, put them in the car, and I think the conditions is what made that story dangerous.
Right.
Because the bottom line is it was 100 degrees at the time, but she felt like she had no other options. And so for you to have to go into a job interview, and I don't know if she got the job or not. The story
Hopefully she did.
Hopefully she did. I don't know, because she spent the time charged in jail. They arrested they arrested her, so I don't know if she was able to start that week or not. But she was not able to leave somebody. Think about it. Sometimes you don't have a big mama. And so, people really need to be thankful when they have that extended family that can help with these situations. True. But I don't think she should have been on trial by herself. Whoever the father of the child is should have been there too, because if you going out to work, where are you? Where she feels like I can't even leave them. People don't want to talk about that, huh? You want to shake your head, because at the end of the day, this problem is not in a vacuum. This wasn't just one lady. This could have been anybody. It could have been my mother who just didn't get caught. You get what I'm saying? Leaving the kid in the car. And so we had these laws on the books. And I'm so thankful that the judge had some leniency with this lady instead of trying to make her a public example. Because many times, if she had got the wrong judge, maybe if she was in Oakland County, Wayne County, she would have been a criminal. Remember last year or 2 years ago, the lady who lied about where she lived so her kid could go to a better school, they gave her time in jail.
Wow.
You get what I'm saying? And so sometimes you're in a situation where you feel like your best option is to do something that might not be 100% right in order to make that sacrifice to the kids. And so society pushed her to that point. It wasn't a drop-off center. It wasn't a daycare that she felt that she knew and she had access to.
Or she just couldn't afford it. She going to a job interview. You know, she couldn't afford it. You know, even if it was, there are child care places out there. But the point of the matter is, she left the kids in that car because she didn't have the money. You know, so.
Well, listen. I wasn't there at the time, and I hope she left them because she had. I hope she was. I hope she wasn't high on this illegal marijuana where she just left the kids in the car. But I don't know. I'm just glad that the judge used the system to make sure that she got some training and that the kids had a better life. Think about it. Right now, they have $115,000 that she can't touch. Because I'm pretty sure that money would be spent on lottery or whatever. But she can't touch that $115,000. And I think when I went to college, I had a trust fund about $7.50. So they got, you know, and by the time these kids get to college, and we're going to have to talk about that next week on the rise of these college tuitions. It's going to cost $115,000 for them to graduate.
Right.
So, but now they've got that money that's locked up there that they can't use because the judge decided not to try to make an example of shame out of her, but to give her an opportunity and give her hope. This is the Foster and Williams Show. We're so glad to be on Highland Park Radio. We'd like to thank everybody that's streaming it. I know about 7 guys at New Mama Ride downloaded the app last week. You can download the app so you can watch me in your pocket. I mean, I know you want to watch SportsCenter and ESPN, but this is the best thing going. Foster and Williams Show, radio show on 88.1 every Monday at 8 p.m. Also, we want to thank our sponsors for today's show. The first sponsor is Diamonds Transport, Airport, Casino, and Carrier Service. You can go to MetroDTRide.com to get more information. Again, that's MetroDTRide.com, or you can call for more information at 248-842-5698. Again, that's 248-842-5698. Secondarily, we're about to get ready for our guests. Our second sponsor for today's show is Ebony Layouts, 248-812-9126. Again, that's 248-812-9126, specializing in church and nonprofit websites. My website is up. You can see last week's show on it. KermitWilliams.com, done by Ebony Layouts, and also HenryDFoster.com, also done by Ebony Layouts. Again, if you want more information, her number is 248-812-9126. Now, before we bring on this guest, this is a friend of mine. We don't always agree, but I thought I would bring him in because last week we talked about young people voting. And so I'm 31 now, so people just told me yesterday I was middle-aged. That hurt my feelings a little bit, but it's so good to be here. So I'm glad that he's getting ready. But when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about Henry's Business Corner. Also, the goal of this show is for every week that we're on air is to get one person hired. And so we've partnered with JobLink in Pontiac, Michigan, and they have a job fair every Friday called Community Ventures at 9 a.m. If you're listening by my voice, please take advantage of that program. Already 30-plus people have been hired out of that. They haven't paid me for this commercial. I'm just telling you that we want people to get hired. Again, that's 248-276-1777. Again, that's 248-276-1777. And the location of that job link is 1850 North Perry Street, okay? Again, that's 1850 North Perry Street in the city of Pontiac, 48342. That's every Friday. You listen to the show on Monday, so get your shirt pressed and get your resume ready to be there on Friday, 248-276-1777. So I'm going to turn it over to Henry, and he's going to talk about the business corner for the day. And then we're going to have my friend and buddy Colin Mays talk about some politics for a second. I hope he don't say the wrong thing because, like I said, we'll talk about that after the business corner.
All right, all right, all right. Yeah, one of the first things I want to talk about is directly affecting Michigan as a whole. Some, may be able to view it in a good way, some in a not so good way. But one of the articles that we actually had to indulge in and look in was the Michigan businesses added $2.7 million into Proposal 1. I'm not the professional on the Proposal 1. My friend over here is on the politics, so he'll be able to talk to you about that. Then the second part of the story was about people are going on to try to save wolves, stop wolf hunting, and then minimum wage, of course. My personal opinion on the $2.7 million, that's good for people that are in great, large enterprises. The reason being, is giving them an opportunity, or they're trying to take an opportunity, hooking up with the legislature that actually approved this kind of thing, is to basically give this money. In turn, they want to basically get personal taxes phased out for themselves. Not particularly for the hard workers, in my opinion, which I don't really agree with. I'm a businessman. I like business, I like making money, but the thing is, without the workers, without the happiness of the workers, I don't believe that it should be ran like that. But they're promising after getting the tax breaks, they're promising to later on get funding to help the governmental services that rely on taxes. So while that may be good, but it's just a promise. What that means to me is not written in the article, but what it means to me is they're going to use the backs of others that are already struggling, or the small businesses that are already struggling or trying to make it, to basically fuel whatever they're taking away for tax breaks. So I'm not a fan in that area. What do you got to say about that?
Well, Proposal 1, for those of you in the audience, the way they've explained it to me is it's the personal property tax, right? And so they're saying that right now they've always been trying to find a way to get rid of personal property tax. You're a businessman, and you have to pay for every one of your business items every year. And so you have to pay for that property tax, and that's what the money we use to fund our schools, to fund our roads, to fund our police, because we get that money back designated from the states. What they're saying is they're going to set up these local authorities, right?
Right.
To designate where this money is going. And the good part about it is they're saying we're going to give you 100%. We're going to get rid of this business property tax so you can have 100% of this money, which is true. And they might be able to do it, because the money they're sending to the state, they might be able to give us 100% of that money. But the bigger question that I still haven't found out is what happens to revenue sharing for places like Pontiac, Flint, Highland Park, Benton Harbor, Detroit, because when the state gets less money, the first thing they do is take it away from the poorest people. I don't care what you say. When the state was struggling 4 years ago, people act like they got amnesia. But right now, seniors are paying taxes on their pension money. So you already paid before, FICA took some money out of your check before you got it. You paid state and federal income taxes before you got it, and then you set away a little portion for you to have when you retire, right? Well, guess what? The state was out of money. So guess what they did? They said, get that cash out. We're going to take some of your pension money right now on seniors. And so because they did it 3 years or so before the election, now it's died down. People have got used to paying the tax. So you don't hear anything about it. People are not in an outrage. They're not in an uproar because they're used to paying that fee. And so now people are choosing between prescriptions, eating, or saving their house. We just had a man in the city of Pontiac because they're trying to take the retiree health care. And he said he has to pay an additional $12,000 a year for him and his wife to have health care. Now, when he retired, that was promised to him by the city. What I'm saying is, because of the tax added in on that, he's paying an additional $18,000 a year between health care and pension tax. And so what I'm saying is, Proposal 1 sounds good. I'm all for small businesses not having to pay extra taxes so they can get started up. But it seems to me every time people get to avoid to pay taxes one way or another, that money doesn't go into hiring people. That money goes into the pockets. Mitt Romney at one time owned Staples. They didn't hire more people when they got tax breaks. When they got that money in the Cayman Islands, guess what? They say we're gonna give you 2 more hours and we ain't gonna pay you overtime.
Exactly.
We're not gonna pay you double time. We're gonna get an employee equivalent. All I'm saying is there's no dedicated way in this proposal 1 in order for people to get the money back that the state is losing. Now, the good side to this, Henry, and I got to give both sides of the case, is that it might help a small business, and the legislator is probably going to do this anyway. But at least with this, the people get 100%.
Right.
So that's the pro to it. So if you're an advocate of it, I'm welcoming you to call in. You can call in at 313-868-3688. But there's 2 sides to every story, and so the one thing I'm always concerned about is, okay, the state's getting less money. Where they gonna balance it at? We've been talking about the lottery. Everybody asks me all the time. They say, listen, I pay $30 in lottery every day. Pontiac schools is still only getting so much money per pupil. And so the point is, yeah, they get that lottery money, right? The lottery money goes to education. But then the state stops putting in additional money that they were putting in before the lottery. I digress, but that's what I'm saying. Anytime you see one of these proposals talking about changing your taxes, know that the person that's getting it put on there is somebody who's paying a whole lot in taxes and got some lobbyists and paying some other stuff.
Yeah.
Listen, little people are not presenting these proposals. They almost took our EM proposal off because they said our font was too small. So what I'm saying to you is when regular people are making a proposal, it's not 100% advocacy. The fact that you only see commercials for proposal 1, look at the people who putting it together. That's all I'm saying. Look behind the money.
And that's an awesome view, man. My problem with this whole thing, I mean, it's not just Michigan. It's other states, that are doing certain things, but they're not particularly for the people. I view this whole story, all 3 of the stories, the minimum wage, the wolf hunting, and all the things I'm going to actually talk about, and then, of course, the story we just talked about. I viewed it as pure selfishness, man, because people put money into what they want to do, Kermit, or what they want to, do or say or whatever else like that. And the next story is just like it's clear. Now, I'm not against any animals and things like that, but I often question myself as where's the value placed on the people. The next part of the story, it was about individuals or organizations coming together and basically trying to stop wolf hunting. And they put a lot of money into this. They put, last year in 2013, $2.3 million.
Hold on, say that again. You said
$2.3 million.
And we ain't got water. In Detroit, they got shut off. They got to bring water from Canada, and they put $2.3 million for some wolves.
For some wolves.
Okay, I'll let you continue.
To protect the wolves, and it didn't stop there. It was some odd $1,000 put in this year. $150-some odd $1,000 in there this year. And it didn't stop from and it's still going on. And it's big corporations actually backing this thing. The Humane Society, where we put our tax dollars or whatever dollars or donation dollars or what you want to call it into it, and you wonder where it's going. It's going into areas like this, but not for the people. So I'm a little bit perplexed by that, disappointed by it. Still a businessman, but disappointed by that. The minimum wage. It had me. We're putting this money everywhere, and we can't get past $10.10 per hour.
They struck that down, so it's not even going to get to $10. I mean, at the end, 3-4 years from now, it'll be $9.25. And I know people are happy for the extra quarter, but I was protesting with the McDonald's workers. Okay, don't mess up my sandwich, McDonald's, because I was protesting with the workers because they do get paid too low for service with a smile. But one of their slogans was, "I can't get live with 745." And, you can't survive on that. And so with the price of everything else going up, we have to be mindful of people in the service industry, because it's a bigger problem. When minimum wage gets raised, it gets raised for anybody, and so I think they pick on the fast food workers and say is that anybody can flip a hamburger. Listen, I worked at McDonald's for about 3 days before they got robbed. I worked there for about 3 days, and one day they had me on the what was that, making the flipping the little sausage patties, and that grease popped on me. I said never again. That's too much. You got to think I might have lifetime scars for this 740, but people have to work there every day, and they're working 40 hours a week and still being under what the federal government requires as the poverty guideline.
And gotta walk, still walk to the work.
How can you work 40 hours every week and still make $15,000?
And depending on how many hours you working, maybe 11.
Oh yeah, when you get to that 15, they start cutting you back because they saying you working, no overtime for you because they got to pay, $7.85 for overtime, so they don't want to pay the extra 45 cents. And so they were able to take that ballot off. But think about it, this property tax, personal property tax, made it all the way through.
Wow.
No problem for the legislator. But like I said, the people who need to vote most vote the least. That's what I'm saying, Henry. And so that's why we got Colin Mays here. So now we're going to grill him, Henry. Are we going to grill him?
Maybe not.
You going to be nice to him?
I might be nice.
I'm going to grill him. So, Colin, listen, we're going to ask you the question that everybody want to know, because we talk about this every year. When President Obama was on the ballot, people came out, especially young people, and they voted in a large clip. Why don't young people vote? You young, why don't they vote?
Well, let me first start by saying it's an honor and privilege to be here.
No,
with
I
you.
want to hear all that. We want to find out why they don't vote. Don't try to butter me up. Let's go. Why don't they vote?
Well, I think everybody compares Barack Obama's election as the landmark election. The problem is there's no other candidate that's like Barack Obama. I mean, so you have to have different ways, different avenues to getting people involved. And it's not just young people. It's middle-aged people. It's older people that don't come out to vote. Your smartphone. I'm sure you have a smartphone. I'm sure I know Kermit has a smartphone.
No, I got a dumb phone. Keep going.
So with that being said, I mean, you have to have some type of an application, some type of an app that's going to get people to just vote right on their phones, so that there is no reason why I can't make it to the polls. I don't want to vote absentee. It's too much work. I don't want to do that. So you got to have some type of avenue that's going to allow people to be able to vote quickly. And you got to give them a candidate. Wait. Kermit, you got to give them a candidate that's going to inspire them to want to go out and vote.
Now, you got to give them a candidate and all this. But listen, man, these people stand in line all night over some Jordans. And you telling me they need an app to vote? That's what you telling me? Come on now.
What I'm saying, and I don't stand in line for Jordans.
Okay, but you get them online. I understand. You get a personal delivery.
No.
I understand.
What I'm saying is that you have to have the right candidate that has the right message to get people out. Barack Obama was a once-in-a-lifetime candidate.
Okay.
So that's a once-in-a-lifetime election.
Right.
So you got to have a candidate that's going to inspire people.
Yeah, you talk about inspiring, but I want to get back to this app. We always talking about making things more simple for people every day. It doesn't take that long to vote. It doesn't take that long to go to the clerk's office and fill out an absentee ballot. I don't know why we're coddling people to do something that benefits them. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, people will stand outside. The liquor store opens at 8 o'clock. They're there at 6:45.
Well,
if they want something, they go get it. This is all I'm saying to you. I'm not trying to beat up on you, Colin, but you're the only young person in the room. And you and Cisco, y'all the only two young people in the room, so I got to beat up on them. My question is, what kind of qualifications do these candidates need? I mean, okay, you don't have a candidate that inspires you to vote, so why aren't young people running?
Well, that's another issue. You got to get more young people out there to run, such as yourself, Kermit. You're a young person that runs for office. I mean, there's plenty of people that run for office. Right now, running for state representative across the state, there's tons of young people that are energetic.
And how many of them are going to win?
I think quite a few. There's a young candidate named David Kanizik who is running for state senate. He's energized. He can win. I mean, there's people all over the state that are running, all over the country that are running. You don't need an age to run for office.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
if you want to, I hate to sound cliche, but if you want to be the change, you got to see it yourself, right?
Yeah, you want to be the change and all that. But I'm talking about the people who right now listening to this. They're driving down the streets. They're looking at these potholes in Highland Park and whatever. They're turning the corner. They're going down Woodward. They're standing in line at McDonald's or wherever. Why should they really vote? I mean, I know David Nathan's also in that race. So we've got tons of young people that are energized and are trying to get out and get to elected office. But when does that focus on everyday people? I know a lot of people voted for the president. They thought their life was going to change. They said, once we get this guy in, life is going to be different. But at the same time, they let the state just go all, I mean, think about it. There's each branch of government is now controlled by one political party.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not the party that elected the president.
Right.
So how do you elect the president and say, oh, that's important, and I come out because I got this sign and I see the infomercial, but then when it's a local election, you know where to be found. Oh, my vote don't count. They're going to do what they want anyway.
Well, I mean, it's some merit to when people say that they're going to do whatever they want. Look at the EM law.
Mhm.
I mean, people voted against that, and we have EMs all across.
But
the
hold
state.
on, it wouldn't be the EM law morphed after we got all three branches of government
That's
switched.
true.
What I'm saying to you is they went to sleep on that election. Then when they woke up with emergency managers, now it's a problem.
That's true.
Now it's a tragedy. That's
Right.
what Eminem would say. Now it's a tragedy. You know, a suburban city. Now it's a problem. Now this is going to Allen Park. My thing is, Colin, let's just be honest. Let's just be real. There's certain mail that you don't get if you don't vote. There's certain things that you're locked out of because you don't engage yourself in the process. And people say, well, I don't want this process, but yet and still they'll show up at the FAA office and wonder why everything's automated. Everything's over the phone now because you put in somebody who don't believe in unions. You get what I'm saying?
I
And
hear
so
you,
they
Kermit.
don't have rights. No, you don't hear me
No,
because
I
you're
hear-
sitting
no,
here
Kermit, I
smiling
hear- no,
like
I hear-
everything is
no,
dandy.
Kermit,
I'm trying to tell you, Colin, because right now you represent all the young people to me in America. So I'm talking everything that I want to say to them, I'm saying to you. So when you see
Okay,
them,
I see. And you
at
letting
the
it rip. And you
barbershop,
letting it rip.
yeah, I'm letting it rip right now. So, but anyway, seriously, Colin, because I do appreciate your wisdom. My question that I want to ask you is, and we're going to talk a little bit about the 14th congressional district race and the 13th congressional district race. We're going to talk about those two races. But before then, if you could give your 30-second speech on why you should vote, even if you don't like the candidates, give me that 30-second spiel right now.
Well, as African American, it's particularly important that I get out and vote. People sacrifice, people die for the right to vote. And as a young African American male in America, it is important to get out, exercise your right to vote. Even if it's a candidate that you don't like, write your own name in. You know, at least you participate in the process. But do your homework. I mean, do your research. You know, we all have to get up and go to work in some aspect. So do your research on a candidate. I'm sure you'll find somebody that you can identify with, and just go out and support them. You don't have to go out and knock doors or go out and put a yard sign up, but I'm sure you'll find a candidate that inspires you to go out and vote for him.
Okay, now I think that was good because you gave me the viewpoints, but you still said the same thing that I always hear. You know, people died and Rosa Parks was on the bus.
They did, Kermit. They did.
Listen,
Wait a
listen.
minute,
Listen, I believe in these people. These are my heroes, but that doesn't mean anything to the man at the barbershop that's yelling at me because they haven't seen the impact on the community. They don't. I guess nobody's looking at the sky level. That these policies is what creates this poverty that you're living in. You get what I'm saying? That
Right.
some legislation that they signed. I mean, the greatest example is the driver responsibility fee. They signed that in one foul swoop. Whoop. Now they're finally getting rid of it 10, 15 years later, or whatever it is, right? But they're phasing it out over 4 years. Why? Because the state has been making money. And who did it affect? The people going to work. Oh, well, you got points on your license, so guess what? We're going to take your license. Now you don't have a license, you got to pay us, but you still got to go to work. Right? So guess what? You take your chances. You drive illegally with no license. You get pulled over. Now you pulled over. Now you got no license. Now you locked up. Now you got court fees. Now you got to pay for attorney if you can afford attorney, but you didn't pay because you couldn't afford attorney. So now you in jail. You serving time. You lost your job. Now you don't have a job. Now you're trying to get out, but you can't live in subsidized housing because now you got a felony. And if you're a felon, you can't live in subsidized housing. And the cycle continues. Now I said that really fast to make the point that somebody signed that legislation. And somebody voted for that person to sign the legislation. And the people who are complaining about the legislation are the same people that sat on the couch and said they're going to do what they want to do anyway.
Not to mess up your interview, but I like to put my little 2 cents in, and you know, don't slap me because I'm over here sideways agreeing with this guy here too, you know. But I'm in between because I'm in business, you know, and I understand a little bit things a little bit differently. You know, if you're not gonna get out and vote, I do want to say this: if you're not gonna get out and vote, at least be the business person or the enterprise that's gonna make some money and better your situation and better your community. Because, you know, if you're not gonna research, which I highly recommend that you research each individual that you're trying to put in office, so it can better your situation. Is what I want to point out as well. You want to research them so that it can help at least your situation, or if it's not going to help your situation, help somebody that's next door. Maybe it's going to help somebody next door. Don't take the opportunity and just throw it away and not vote. You want to look at who it is. If one of those 1 or 4 or 6 candidates can help you or help another state or something, just don't wake up and think your vote doesn't matter. From a career and a business standpoint, if you're looking for a job or if you're looking to do something good, do something about it. Vote. So that's my little 2 cents.
I'm with you on that, and listen, I'm just playing the advocate here. But the bottom line is, people have to be you voting either way. If you don't show up, you still voting.
That's right.
You just voting for the person you didn't want because you didn't show up.
That's right.
And so people have to realize at the end of the day that you got to make your voice be heard on the bottom line. So we want to hear from you. Again, the number to call in is 313-868-3688. Again, that's 313-868-3688. This is the Foster and Williams Show every Monday at 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So you got a little while to call in. Before we go to talking about the 14th and 13th Congressional District, Colin, I want to ask you this question. Because you talked about research, right? Everybody's flyer I get looks about the same. They all say I did this and I worked for whoever, and they got a picture of somebody who they don't know that they took in a crowd. And they buddied up like this, and they took the picture like they're their best friend. They got a picture, with the new senator of the month. And this is I don't know neither one of these people. So why should I vote for? How can I differentiate if somebody's really for my issue? Because a lot of people have put people in office, and as soon as they got in office, they just flip-flopped.
Go meet with them.
I was getting ready to say that.
And that's, honest to God, that's the best thing you could do. Go meet with them. I'm sure they have a campaign office. If they don't, call them on their cell phone. If they're a true public servant, they will make time to get back to you. Go meet with them. Sometimes doing your homework isn't enough. You're right. A lot of people's literature does look somewhat identical to everybody else's. So it's important that you build kind of a grassroots effort in getting to know them.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the 13th Congressional District race. Now, for those of you who are out there, that's the biggest portion of Detroit, and then it's downriver, Dearborn, currently represented by Congressman John Conyers. If he wins re-election, he'll be the oldest serving congressperson, right?
That's correct.
Okay. He'll be the dean of the Congress versus Reverend Horace Sheffield. Now, both of these guys. So tell me, because I've met them. I've got to sit down and talk to both of them. But tell the audience what that race really boils down to. I mean, what's the pros and cons of both candidates?
Congressman Conyers is going to be reelected, and it's important that Congressman Conyers is reelected. Nothing against Reverend Sheffield, but people don't understand the importance or the significance of John Conyers going back to Congress for 50 years is what it will be for him. Not only as the Dean of the Congressional Black Caucus, but the Dean of the entire United States House of Representatives. So it's a milestone effort. It's not something that's ever happened before, and having him go back to Congress is a powerful message all across the country.
Okay, now let me ask you this. That man almost didn't make it back on the ballot because staffers or whoever didn't register the people who were signing the petition forms. They weren't registered voters when they were signing the petition forms, and the judge stepped in and said he can stay on the ballot. But how does that happen when you've been in Congress for 50 years? How does that happen where the people who are working for you don't do what they're supposed to do when there's no oversight? Colin, come on, talk to me.
Well, look, I don't know what happened there. I wasn't
involved.
involved.
Now he's getting political. See, hold on. We got to cut him off because he's getting political on us. He's giving me the straight answer. I'm just trying to find out because when I saw it, I was shocked.
Right.
I mean, that's election 101, right?
As was I.
Okay, but you don't seem offended. You're saying somebody's gonna get reelected who can't get on the ballot. I'm just saying
he will be reelected, easily reelected.
Okay.
Without a doubt, and it's important that Congressman Conyers is reelected for those reasons that I mentioned.
Okay, now let's get to the 14th congressional district, which is my home.
Okay, now you're talking. My home too.
Which I serve. I don't know. I don't know if you honorary. I got to check your certificate. You know, that's the new thing now. People are moving into places right before election day, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the Wayne County executive race, because they were trying to get Warren Evans off the ballot because they said he moved in too late, and that's the new thing now. Wow. I can get you scratched for not living there. So Colin says he lives in the 14th, and we'll take his word for it for right now. But anyway, 14th congressional district. All of my buddies is running, and so I'm gonna go down the line, and you tell me the first thing that comes to mind when you think about these people. Okay, we're gonna start with Mr. Foster. I think that's his name. I don't know him, but
I don't know him either. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
All right. The second person, my buddy, former Congressperson Hanson Clark.
Experienced.
Okay. The next one is young up-and-comer Rudy Hobbs.
Energetic.
Okay. And the last one is the mayor of Southfield, the number one running lady in the race, Brenda Lawrence.
Well known.
Well known. Now, out of this, who's going to be the best candidate, in your opinion, for the regular, everyday people? Now, I'm not talking about for politicians. We're saying when they get in office, are they going to be able to make some significant impact, knowing that the House of Representatives is run by the other side?
Well, I think the polling shows Hanson Clark is right now in the lead, and I think Hanson Clark will end up winning. I think it's important to understand that he was in Congress before, so people like him. It is a new district for him. When he lost to Gary Peters, he didn't lose by a whole bunch. I mean, he lost the suburbs, which is probably going to be another issue for him this time around, but he should be able to carry this race.
So you're saying that Hanson Clark is going to win because of the polling? Now, I don't trust.
No, not just because of the polling, but because of his base in Detroit and his base in Wayne County, and also because if you look at Rudy and Brenda, they're both slicing up Oakland County pretty good.
They are slicing up Oakland County pretty good. I like both of them, though. My question to you, though, is, I mean, people are saying because of the polls and because of Wayne County, but let's be honest. Detroit doesn't vote in the primary. Let's keep it real. Highland Park don't vote in the primary. I mean, come on. That's what. Let's be honest, right? I mean, the polls say, because they're calling 900 likely voters, right? And these are people who had house phones because they had to call them. And so they're over a certain age. Cisco, you don't have a house phone no more, do you? That's what I'm saying to you. So I don't know how accurate these polls are. All I know, the only poll that I can go by is the barbershop poll.
And what is the barbershop saying, Kermit?
Well, I'm not going to tell you what the barbershop is saying. I brought you on the show for you to tell me what the barbershop is saying. That's the whole point. I'm interviewing you. You go ask me.
Okay, listen, let me tell you something about each candidate, okay? Okay. Brenda Lawrence, very well known, very well liked, mayor of Southfield. Mm-hmm. She's run for everything from Congress to lieutenant governor. Her name recognition is everywhere. She's going to have a huge advantage from that vantage point. Hanson Clark, a former congressman. He's been there before. The only reason why he lost was because Gary Peters beat him. So him going back to Congress, I think, would be something that is easy for him to achieve. Rudy Hobbs, young, energetic, picking up a lot of endorsements everywhere from unions to Carl Levin to Andre Spivey. I mean, he has everybody backing him. He's not making a whole lot of traction, though. So it's going to come down to what can Rudy do in this literally last week, 7 days. What can Brenda do to continue to push her message, and what can Hanson do to continue to hold his lead, because I do believe Hanson is in first place right now. So it's going to come down to really 7 days to figure out who can get out their vote, who can get out their base. So it'll be interesting.
Well, it sounds too quiet to me. I mean, really, if I didn't see yard signs, I wouldn't know that it was a congressional race.
Well, there's also a lot of people running this year, Kermit. I mean, it's ridiculous amount of people running. State Senate, state rep, Congress.
But that seems like everybody should know it's an election, right?
Well, you would think.
But I don't know. People don't want to knock doors anymore. I don't know. I mean, people come by. I mean, I got a lot of literature in my mailbox just yesterday. It was, and guess what? All of it went to file 13. Because I said, I ain't got time to read 4 hours worth of literature when you ain't call me. I mean, I believe in shoe leather. And so a lot of people are not spending shoe leather, and they're saying, well, come on out and vote, but they're not engaging the people. And then, this is the second part. Why do people vote in general elections that don't vote in primaries? That's asinine to me. That's crazy. How can you vote? Think about it. If you got a choice, Henry, to pick between chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, lemon, mango, ice cream, right? Mm-hmm. Then you don't vote. And then they give you a choice between chocolate and strawberry, and you're allergic to strawberry, so guess what? You end up with chocolate. but you didn't want chocolate in the first place. That's what happens when you don't vote in the primary election and you vote in the general, because you get the two choices that other people have picked for you. Then they say, I don't want to vote for the lessers of the evil. Well, you voting for the lessers of the evil by staying home in the primary election. It should be more people voting in the primary election than voting in the general election. Why? Because you're choosing who you want to represent you, and you have more options at that point. But guess what? They know people don't vote. And so this is what they do. They get the absentee list. They look at those names. They see your grandma on the list. They see your Auntie Jean on the list. They say, guess what? I'm going to talk to Jean. I'm going to talk to your grandma, Miss Susie, and that's it. Colin, you're not getting a phone call. I'll see you in November. Why? Because you're young. And so as young people, how do you guys create a block? You know, the AARP is big. They lobby. They make sure people come to their conventions. But when it talks about young people and young people's issues, think about it. I just got a student loan thing in the mail saying you need to show me all this documentation to make sure that we don't raise your interest rate. When that stuff happens, who's the lobbyist? Who's speaking for you guys?
Right.
Wow.
Well, see, people vote when they get mad, Kermit. So I don't think enough young people have gotten mad. People don't vote when they're happy. They vote when they're mad.
Mhm.
And you know that to be true.
Yeah, but what they're not getting mad. I mean, what else can you do to get mad? I mean, I can't
get mad. It's got to be something that's going to get them mad.
Colin May, listen, my thing is, it's more people that's going to vote tonight on somebody's radio show about Bobby Smurder than it is that's going to vote in the primary election. That's your age range. How can we change that? If 2 Chainz has more name ID than Brenda Lawrence with young people, how do we change that?
That's a good question, Kermit.
That's
You know,
hard one.
I don't know. I don't know, Kermit. I don't know.
I mean,
you gotta. I mean, I don't know. You have to do media. You have to do meet and greets. You gotta knock on doors. You gotta make phone calls. I mean, it's a whole slew of things you gotta do.
listen,
And you gotta do it before 2 months before you're running for office.
Okay, I can agree with that. I mean, you know, listen, I'm not advising any of these campaigns, so whatever they hear from Colin, hopefully they'll apply it. I don't know if they're listening, but we're live on Highland Park Radio. We got about 10 minutes before we get out of here. If you want to call in, it's 313-868-3688. Again, that's 313-868-388. Again, we want to thank our sponsors for today's show, Diamond Transport. More information at metrodtride.com. Airport, casino, carrier service, or you can call 248-842-5698. Again, that's 248-842-5698. Oh my goodness, we've got our first caller on the air. Let me see if I know how to work this phone. All right, how you doing? Sheila Gray, you're on the air. What's going on?
Hi, this is Ebony Wilkins, and I was listening to you on. I had to put in about the peers, about the young people.
About the young people, what's going on?
A lot of people not connected to voting. A lot of times they don't feel like they have any kind of connection to the process.
That's good, Colin. Now, she said that a lot of people don't feel like they're connected to the voting process. How did you get connected?
Well, I was just always interested in politics. So I don't know if I'm the best example. This is all I've ever wanted to do. So
Okay,
since I
well,
was
let's
10 years
we're not gonna
Okay,
go
all right,
through
we're not gonna go
your
through that.
childhood Barack Obama story today. We're gonna say that for next time you're on the air. Tell me, if I just walked in off the street, how can I get connected? I'm 16 years old.
Right.
I'm gonna be ready to vote in 2 years. How do I get connected in the process to make a difference?
You got to go to meetings, find your local